February 19th, 2026. This is the S&P 500 E Futures Mini on the 2002 chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. It looked like in the pre-market there was a sell-off bounce, kind of a sideways but bearish sell-off on the open. And, well, shortly after the open, it rallied back up, moved into the sideways price action. It looked like it was two legs down, one leg up, another leg down, another leg up. For the most part, it was just very choppy, and it felt very trappy, meaning a lot of setups felt like they were traps. I did mark maybe about, well, as you can see, these parentheses ones are what I thought were almost trades. They failed to be a good setup, in my opinion, due to a number of factors. Probably bad signal bar, context wasn't right. It just didn't look quite clean. I did mark, I think, about three setups, like where I thought they were possible trades. This guy here, this guy, and this one that I actually took a trade. I'm going to go into the setups right now. There's also kind of, since it was so choppy, there wasn't as much. I mean, it looks like there was a lot of volume, but it was just very whipsaw. From the pre-market, it was just pretty much moving sideways, pushes up, sells off in this orange down channel, breaks, tests the low. Looks like it was two legs up, another push down, another press up, sideways consolidation, and then the market opens. So technically, you have a localized swing low here, first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short there, but it's inside, so I just saw it as a visual first entry. Second entry, it's not a good signal bar. You do have a potential triple test, but it's a bad signal bar. This is right at the open, the first minute. If you look at the timestamp, it's 6:31 Pacific Standard, and I'm just more reluctant to take any trades unless it's just an absolute perfect setup. Anything short of that, even if it's a decent setup, I'm not going to take, just because the first minute it just gets wild, or it could be wild. Same thing with the last 30 minutes, especially the last 10 minutes. So I thought it might have been in this range. There's a triple test, multiple tests here. First entry long, and that's all you get. Then it pushes, it breaks out through the bottom, hits the low of day, pushes up, break of the green up channel, tested the high. As long as it's a visual first entry short, pullback, second entry short. There is a lower high here, but I called an almost trade. And because the break of this green up channel has tested the high, it could be coming back down, but is it going to come back down to test the low of this orange down channel, or is it just going to come back down because it's the bias of what's happening? It's hard to say because you don't have the benefit of the 21 EMA right now to act as another key entry point. So you can't really trust it and say, well, it got rejected off of the 21 EMA, that's why it's going to go back down. So all this is almost trade, lower high, but it's not good enough. Hits the low, pushes up, has this really big drop down. I'm not really sure why this happened. Pushes up. This creates a higher low, but again, this is something I noticed. I did establish this yellow up channel. Well, it was actually just a yellow trend line. The channel, I wasn't 100% sure where it was. I thought it might have been here or here when I saw this in real time. Later, I actually dragged it up to about right here, so it encapsulates these two without creating an overshoot, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. So prices continue moving up. EMA is starting to show that it's in a bullish bias. Localized high. First entry long pullback. You have a technical second entry long, but this is the first break of this this orange down channel. So I'm thinking it's going to push down, might push up, and then have a second attempt down. But I was a little confused because it did recover, this pushback up, recover more than half of this potential leg down. So it was unclear to me exactly what the bias is at this point, other than it seemed like it was buying, it was like rallying. Because I also was playing with the idea that maybe this channel might be here. So there's a break here. It could make a second attempt up to try to push up before coming back down. Now, as the things were going, and I get to here, it's localized low. First entry short, pullback. Second entry short, it's a bad signal bar. Don't really like it. Confirm second entry short. I see this, and I'm thinking there's pretty good confirmations to the low side. I'm expecting prices to come all the way back down, and I'd be interested in taking a trade if this price action comes back down to the support of this yellow up channel. So coming back down, I'm watching it. It bounces here, but there's no setup. Again, no setup. You really only have a first entry long. Pushes through. There's a break of this orange down channel. It's going to test the low. I'm looking for maybe a start of a reversal to move back into this yellow up channel. This could be it. So this is a first entry long pullback, second entry long. It's really, really setting up. I'm thinking if I could close inside this yellow up channel, there might be a trade here. Unfortunately, it never triggers and it pushes down. So now I'm just sitting on my hands, no thoughts of taking a trade. Then I see this candle, which is actually inside of this candle. So it's an inside bar, but it's nice finish, but it is showing side-by-side characteristic now. Then you have a doji, which doesn't help. And again, it comes back down. So now I'm not thinking of any trade at all. I'm just waiting to think, okay, well, I'm not clear on what the price action wants to do or what the bias is. So just sit on my hands. Pushes down. It hits what I think is the support area. This line was drawn a little bit later, but I'm thinking there's some kind of support area that prices are struggling to push through. Creates a localized low. First entry short pullback, second entry short. Second entry short I called an almost trade. I wasn't sure if this attempt right here was the attempt to move back into this yellow up channel. The yellow up channel doesn't fit the nicest though, because the size of it, especially the width compared to how many candles it printed, doesn't really secure it in my mind as a clean channel. But it is acting as a guideline. Pushes down. It creates a second entry long, new high, first entry long. This is actually moved, so I don't see this yet. Now I'm thinking new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long, triple test. One touch, two touch, three touch. It's pretty, well, relatively speaking, it's a pretty big bar because it's 28 ticks. I kind of want to stay out of this. Pushes up. You do get a higher low here. I was thinking about it at the time because it's a new high, first entry long, second entry long, confirmation higher low, but you'd be buying into the top of this range. So I wasn't sure about it. And the prices continue moving down. At this point, I established this darker blue line because this darker blue line was actually where the low of my trading range initially was established. So this gray line was actually up here, and then later I dragged it down. So it starts pushing down. I treat it as a failed breakout of this blue line, which was defining my trading range at the time. Pushes up, gets a nice rejection here, say first entry short, pullback. Technically setting up for a nice second entry short. It does, but it doesn't have a good clean finish. But I'm thinking my trading range is bookended by the top right here and the bottom right here. Pushes and then actually gives you a lower high. So it's a new low, first entry short pullback, second entry short. Now technically this candle ticked above this guy, so actually made a higher high. The way it closed with the triple test, multiple test if you include this guy, I thought this was a decent setup because it is kind of confirming prices are coming back down. There was thought that I might be in a range here, but there was enough room for a quick scalp. But I left it alone. Pushes down, creates this second entry long triple test on the low side. One touch, two touch, three touch. Excuse me. Localized high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. I also call this an almost trade because when this is my range, this dark blue one in the high side, I'm thinking prices have failed 3 times to make it to the high side. Certainly it's found some support here. There might be enough for a quick scalp, but I think the overall bias is prices want to move back down to this solid blue line. So I saw it, but I didn't think it was safe to take. I mean, you do have low of range, EMA, but EMA to the left isn't very reliable right now because it's not acting as support or resistance because you have candles moving above and below it. So it was hard to give another reason for a key entry point being the EMA bounce. So it's more likely a range trade. But again, I already saw the break of the screen, tested the high 2 times. I'm thinking more likely it wants to come back down. I didn't want to get stuck in a potential trap. This would have given you or given me the 1 point or the 6 tick scalp, which is down. So it hits the low side. Now I'm very interested in seeing if there's going to be a trade set up here. Technically, it's a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. You could reset the count here. It could be a first entry long pullback, second entry long. Unfortunately, this is an inside bar, and then it pulls out this candle here, which confirms the second entry long. So I'm looking for a higher low. And unfortunately, you don't get the higher low. It never breaks. The next candle never breaks below the previous. Instead, it comes to here, pushes down, hits this. I'm watching carefully now because I'm wondering why it didn't have enough momentum to hit the high side, but now it's coming back down and it broke through. So starting to reverse. Localized low, first entry short. You technically get your second entry short way up here with a multiple test, but it didn't have a good signal bar, so I wasn't really ready for it. I kept this line here, dragged my range from where this blue bold line is downwards. So then I started here, and this is kind of where the range officially ended up. 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch with a fail breakout, kind of corresponds to this fail breakout, and then another touch here. So I thought, okay, this is probably the range that we're operating in. Starts coming back down, hits the low side. I'm wondering if it's going to stop on this blue line or this bottom gray line. Looks like it stopped on the blue line. So this dark blue and the low of the range is some kind of support zone, not necessarily the line, but it looks like there's some kind of reaction here. A lot of traders step in and buy it right about here. So that's kind of important to know. So if it comes back down to here, I'm just watching carefully. And if it does break through here, I keep the option open, or the possibility open, that prices could come down and test the low side here. It pushes up. This is where it gets a little bit noisy because these candles are huge, relatively speaking, for the day. First entry short pullback, second entry short. I'm not ready to take any of these. Gives you a lower high, but this lower high, you do have enough for 1 to 2 point scalp, but I see this, it doesn't close nicely at the low. If it did, then I may have considered taking a trade, but since it rallied back up, I didn't like that. You don't know the next candle is going to flush down. By the time this guy closes, it's in the potential support zone defined by the dark blue and the low here. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen. It breaks down and breaks through. So now it's kind of breaking out. I'm curious to know if it's going to go back into this gray trading range. Pushes up. There's a small reaction here. I say first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short here. It's a bad signal bar, followed by a doji, followed by kind of a neutral bearish bar, which is down. Gives you a lower high here because technically you have a visual first entry short, second entry short, lower high, but it's so far from this setup. I really consider it more like a first entry long. Technically, you have a new low, first entry short, second entry short. Second entry short, this was tempting. At the time, I had this drawn as a trend line. Didn't really turn into a channel yet because this was transparent at the time. And I thought, is my range or my channel here? Or is it actually here? Or is it all the way down to here? So it wasn't clear because if it was up here, you have enough room to scalp out to the low. Excuse me. For this one right here, first entry short, second entry short. There's a confirmation here, but I wasn't 100% sure. There's an overshoot here, so I was leaving open the idea that it might have an overshoot here. So I wanted to see another lower high, but you don't really get another lower high, but you get a higher low here. But it's another almost trade because this is the first break of this yellow down channel, if this is really even the down channel. So it could be also considered a second entry short failure. Technically, it's failed. First entry short, second entry short, second entry short fails on this one because it here you just have a confirmed second entry short with a bad setup finish. Then it officially fails here and it gives you a higher low here, but it's also really close to this boundary. So I'm thinking prices, there's a possibility it could move back down. Starts pressing up. I had this red up channel a little bit tighter initially, then it had such a long dwell time, dragged it up. Had an overshoot here, then it creates an overshoot here, but it fails to move back in. So I'm not sure prices are going to come back in to test the highs. It just gets kind of noisy here. Starts pressing down. I established this gray down channel, but it's not my favorite because it's just, there's besides the 2 touches here, there's just too much empty space here and too much empty space here. But it at least acted as a guideline. No clean second entries right now. Hits the low of day, starts reversing. Break of this potential gray down channel. It's coming back down to test the low. Just noisy. New high, first entry long pullback, second entry long, just kind of bouncing off in the middle of nowhere. Later, I found that maybe this is a potential range, but this is a fail breakout. I'm expecting prices to come back up to the high side. This green up channel, depending on how you drew it, doesn't quite fit well. You could make the argument it's pushing back in, like a first entry long pullback, second entry long. I wanted to really see a higher low with a decisive break outside this gray down channel, because the way I have it drawn now, whether it's accurate or not, at least in real time where I had it established and what I was playing off of, I'm buying right into the high. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. I just want a higher low to confirm. it just gets noisy. You technically get a higher low, but you're also running into a potential resistance area. I wasn't a big fan of that. Comes back down. I established this purple trading range because I think prices are just moving sideways now. It's reacting pretty well. You get a higher low here. It's not a good trade because you're going to buy into the highs of this sub purple range. Pushes up to the high side. Break of this green up channel. Kind of just chopping sideways. Tested the high. Getting noisy. Yen just watching. Localized high. First entry long. You had one here. First entry long. Second entry long. It's bad signal bar. I don't completely trust this orange up channel just yet. Plus, this isn't a good signal bar because when you see this in real time, furthest thing I'm thinking of right now is going long. Get a confirmation here, but this could also just be one leg down. So just not enough information in my book. Kind of starts moving, chopping sideways. It gives you this second entry short triple test. So you have a localized low, first entry short pullback, second entry short. Break of this orange up channel technically has tested once and made a second attempt up. Triple test off this resistance. I thought this was a possible trade, at least for a very conservative 1-point scalp. Would have worked. Pushes down on this yellow down channel. Break. Looks like it's moving up this green up channel. And it kind of sets up for my one and only trade. So there's a number of things I was looking at and I was kind of taking into account. There's this yellow down channel. It broke to the low side. This yellow down channel, it left open the possibility it actually might be something like this. Because it really doesn't have any confirmations when it was up here. Maybe you could argue one touch, two touch, but you could also argue that maybe there's ranges actually, the channel's actually down here. So it looks like it is hitting the lows, makes one attempt, makes a second attempt. This also is a first entry short, second entry short, technically a third entry short. So there's a couple of things going on. So this is kind of where I had it and what I was thinking at the time. There's a break on the low side. It's a break on the high side and makes another attempt up. So it's a break corresponding to, there's this break corresponding to the break that was here. Pulls back, pushes back up. This green shortened trend channel has broken, tested the high, made a second attempt. I saw this also as a visual first entry short, pullback, second entry short. It's not the cleanest because it's actually third entry short. The signal bar doesn't really close nicely, which is this green one right here. But as I was watching this, and I will admit this is a little more aggressive, I saw the prices pushing down. It was holding below this break. I entered the trade hoping to get just a 1-point scalp, just try to get one trade for the day, just to see it move down. It pulls back here, and I thought, okay, there's a possibility I might lose this trade. But I was lucky that it pushes down. So this filled, my entry filled late in the life of this candle. So my stop was actually above this candle. Actually, it was above this candle coincidentally, because it already opened, moved up to this high point, moved down, and as the tick count was running out, I said, I like the way it's going to end. I think it's going to close near the low. Entered, and then it pulls back. Buyers bought it back up to here. My stop's above here because as I said, my entry was late and the candle already made it up here. If I had entered earlier, my stop might have been above this candle and it would have stopped me out. But it's just the way it played out. I was fortunate. It was a late entry because it was a late move on this candle that pushed it back up. I was lucky. Opens, flushes down, gives me the 1-point scalp. And that's all I was asking for. No runner, no nothing. As it prints, I realized the danger of this trade because I was then later able to establish this purple up channel, which looks like it fit pretty well. But again, in real time, the purple up channel doesn't quite exist, so I didn't really have any concern of running into a potential support area. But as candles printed, I realized, oh, this is actually pretty aggressive, not the best setup. So I was lucky in this regard. Kind of a different, clear difference than the 2 trades I took yesterday. But pushes up the high. First entry long pullback. Technically, a second entry long here is not a good signal bar. Don't really like it. Looks like it's moving down this orange down channel. It's just congested right here. You do have a higher low here because it looks like it's a visual first entry, pullback, second entry, and technically the higher low should be here. There's also a first entry short, second entry short, second entry short failure. So that's why I put it over here. But again, there's no clean setup. it was falling outside this purple up channel. I established this red up channel, which you can see is transparent because I never colored it in. And it really doesn't come into play because it's already too late in the day. Prices then move sideways and never really comes back down to touch and test this red up channel. So this red up channel never was colored in because it doesn't really help at all. It didn't really act as a key entry point. Time of day was too late to try to take any trades. And as you can see from the last 10 minutes all the way into the end, there's really no setups, far from the EMA, nothing just worth risking. Now I see this is pretty late in the day. Usually by about here, where it's almost at 12 o'clock, I should just have kind of declared, call it a day and say there's no trades, be a no trade day. So me entering this trade definitely was aggressive. And in hindsight, it wasn't the cleanest setup. It was actually far more dangerous than I initially thought. And I probably should have left it alone. It wasn't the nicest, cleanest trade. And it was taken on an engulfing. So hopefully that was helpful.